south, hood baby. Hood baby, make the girls go crazy. Go crazy, go stupid. You're smart like an A+ student. Up, down, right, down, looking for your love right now. Oh, to be young again. Here is your wrestling news. A WWE star is returning next week. We have details on backstage heat between AEW stars, and could WWE be in legal trouble for 2K Battlegrounds? We'll talk about it in a bit. We start with the return of Pete Dunne. Remember Pete Dunne? I like to hurt people. Could I get a return day saver from outbreak, and other phrases from the West Midlands. Pete Dunne hasn't been on WWE TV since before the pandemic truly took hold. He was a tag team champion with Matt Riddle, and then obviously everything got shut down as a result of COVID. Pete Dunne was in the UK and unable to defend his NXT tag titles as part of the Broserweights. This brought in Timothy Thatcher, the brief Thatcher era in NXT with Matt Riddle, and consequently we haven't seen Pete Dunne on television since. And we're happy to report that Pete Dunne is returning to the WWE next week. It was revealed on a brand new episode of NXT UK. The first time we've seen a proper episode of NXT UK for about 7,000 years. From the BT Sports studio, it all looked great there, and it was there where it was announced that Pete Dunne will be a special guest for the draw for the NXT UK Heritage Tournament. And I don't think it's just going to be limited to Pete Dunne being a guest for a tournament drawing. No, there was some sources a while ago that suggested that if Pete Dunne was going to make a return during the pandemic, it was going to be as a part of NXT UK. Since he's on that side of the water right now, kind of makes sense to utilise him as and where you can. And to put him on NXT UK would certainly do wonders for NXT UK as well. And I think that whilst he's going to be there as a special guest, I wouldn't be surprised if this leads to an angle that makes him part of that brand for a little while going forward. I'm happy to see Pete Dunne back. Always been a big fan of the work of Pete Dunne. Just a guy from my neck of the woods who's done good in WWE and as part of NXT. And look forward to seeing him next week. Nice to have him back. You may have noticed on AEW that the fight between Thunder Rosa and Ivelisse was quite a scrappy one, wasn't it? It's quite a scrappy affair. A lot of hard slaps, a lot of swinging with punches and stuff like that. Well, it seems as if there's quite a bit of heat between these two. This comes from Fightful Select, who say that Thunder Rosa and Ivelisse hadn't been getting along that well before the match started. Quite a few people backstage say that Thunder Rosa and Ivelisse had a very palpable tension between each other backstage. And this sort of came to light during the match as well, as Ivelisse was no-selling some of the offense from Thunder Rosa. Rosa took a great exception to this, and you saw quite a few stiff shots thrown by both parties throughout this match. If you watch it back again, especially near the beginning, like, it does feel quite a snug little affair between these two. And this apparently is some tension between the two backstage that bubbled over onto Dynamite last night. Now, sources have also said that they thought the match would be edited somewhat, and we're not sure whether or not there were bits that were taken out or not, but we do know that there was a little bit of animosity between these two. Now, they're set to compete against each other again next week. They're in a tag team match. It's Thunder Rosa teaming with Shida to take on Ivelisse and Diamante. That match is still set as it happens, and when we get an update on this, we'll let you know. There are some acts you simply cannot split up. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy, Gary and Tony from Men Behaving Badly. And of course, you cannot split up the New Day. Despite discussions to the contrary, New Day will simply have to rock on forever. WrestleVotes have shared a rejected idea that would see the New Day split up, but not split up. Let me explain. Let me quote the tweet for you. From WrestleVotes. Interesting idea that was discussed but turned down. Kofi Kingston would return to Raw, while Big E stays on SmackDown. Both remain part of New Day, including gear and music, just on separate brands. Another twist, Xavier Woods would serve as a manager type, appearing on both shows. This would allow Kofi Kingston sort of a fresh lease on life as part of Monday Night Raw. It would allow Big E to continue some great work he's been doing as a singles competitor. And for Xavier, give him a bit of a showcase on both brands. However, this idea, as we understand, has been shot down. New Day are just so keen to stay as a threesome. No plans on splitting them up anytime soon. I do believe splitting up the New Day would be one of the signs of the apocalypse. Now, Shane McMahon appeared on Corey Graves' podcast after... Fire bell. We have a fire alarm check on a Friday. Feel free to keep that in, Owen, if you want. Shows that we are safety compliant. Shane McMahon was on Corey Graves' After the Bell podcast, and he had a couple of things to say about numerous topics. He started by talking about Raw Underground and the inspiration behind this. According to Shane McMahon, this is an original concept. Ooh, Josh Barnett enters the chat. This is more even going back to Roman gladiator times when they used to have short matches to determine who was going to be the winner. So the iterations, there have been lots of stuff, or similar things, I should say. I got some inspiration from Japan. I've been traveling to Japan since the late 80s. When I was a teenager, I saw some of this, so it always resonated with me. And you mentioned MMA. A lot of my friends do that sport. I also practice multiple forms of MMA. Do you, Shane? You should try that in a match sometime and really enjoy doing it. If you can blend that with WWE entertainment, what we can compact together, and again, it's a work in progress. That is what we are trying to accomplish. Shane McMahon with some thought process behind Blood Sports Entertainment there. He also talked about the Firefly Funhouse match from WrestleMania this year. A very creative setup that was. And a lot of people have varying opinions on it. Some people think it was just a weird segment. Some people think it was a masterpiece. Shane McMahon says, "We knew it was going to be different. Whether you loved it or hated it, we wanted to make it a mind trip. So it set up the potential of any time The Fiend wants to have a match like this, it could be this trippy, completely different, go anywhere down a wormhole type thing." That was the intent of it. Kudos to John Cena for thinking outside the box. An immense amount of that was really, really pushed by him. John wanted Bray to do very well with it, and he had it be a showcase for him. Very unselfish. A lot of love for John Cena following the Firefly Funhouse. Personally, I think it is, as Shane McMahon said, just a head trip of an event. See if we'd even calling it a match. It was an event. And fine, Alamo, happy 2K Battlegrounds Day. Yes, WWE's video game department, after a tough 12 months, finally getting back into the goodwill of the wrestling fans, back into the hearts and minds of, there's legal problems. Whew. So, this is a doozy. Let me explain. So, New Legacy Inc., going to give a shout out to those guys, really cool Twitch streamers. They got an early copy of the game, so they played it yesterday. And they noticed something during the game. And it was also picked up by Heel by Nature on Twitter. So, there is a loading screen. I think it was during the Royal Rumble match, which features what you see on the screen right now. There's a female wrestler, arms out wide, celebrating a victory. Now, here's the thing. That is based on a picture of Tessa Blanchard from Impact Wrestling. That's the picture it's based on right there. You see? Do you see? Do you see? Yeah, so it's not so much a fact of, it looks a bit like. That is blatantly a copy of the picture of Tessa Blanchard, right? And this was shared online, and Basil Mahmood has seen the picture. Who is Basil Mahmood? He is the guy who works as a photographer for Impact Wrestling who took that picture. And he has said the following: "Hey WWE Games, you want to tell me why you took my photo without my permission to use in your game?" 2K, at time of recording, are yet to respond. This is a massive own goal for WWE 2K Battlegrounds. And it's not even the fact that, it's creative license. If it's out there in the public domain, you could claim you could use it, but for one, it's not. And also, it's from a different flipping company. Are you genuinely telling me that nobody could find a picture of a female wrestler celebrating in any WWE photo library from the last 400 years? Seriously? This smacks of, and this is just my theory. This is, if you will, a game theory. This smacks of a work experience being told to grab some photos to use. That's what that smacks of. And they're just them Googling woman wrestler celebrating. Oh, that looks like WWE. That'll do. That's what that smacks of. That's a bad one. It's just, a year on from 2K20 and the nightmare that was, and they were desperate to curry favour. The game itself isn't bad. Let's put that in there. The game itself isn't bad. It's not without problems, but it's not bad. That's an issue, though. And that is going to be potentially a financial and logistical nightmare for the games department, because not only will they have to make some sort of deal or settlement with the photographer, but you've now got to get that out of the game. So, coming soon to a PlayStation or a PC near you, a big old patch update. Yay! Happy days. Love you by Friday. Today, twitch.tv/Cultaholic. It is you, it is I, it is live calls on the Cultaholic Twitch channel. Come and have a chat. It'd be great to speak to you. It'd be an honour and a privilege to join me there. Also, I've had a few messages about this during the week, and I kind of want to bring this up now in case you're not aware. If you want just wrestling news, so if you just want the bare bones wrestling news on a day, you don't want gags, you don't want stuff like this, I recommend you download the Cultaholic Wrestling News podcast. It is a daily 20-minute podcast that we put out every morning, and it is just the wrestling news. If that is something that you're after, we can do that for you, and you can get it in your ears. It's normally online first thing on the morning, and it's just the wrestling news. Putting that out there, if it's something that you want to try, we do interviews as well, and we have classic wrestling show watch-alongs and reviews. Obviously, the Cultaholic Wrestling podcast lives there, and loads of other stuff pops up there as well. Just search Cultaholic wherever you get your podcasts from. Stay safe. Love you, bye.